What's up, y'all? It's Mike at One Rope. So last time we talked about the tasks of leadership. This time we're going to have a short talk about the tasks of supervision. If you remember, leadership was about the guiding principles, the generalities, right, of the things that you want to infuse into your organization to kind of put it on track to be an inclusive and non-oppressive environment. You know, that which we would like to see and we would like to create in the community or in the youth, we must be modeling in our own organizations. So last time we talked leadership generally. This time we're going to talk supervision specifically. And so for supervisors, you and I, these are our specific tasks. And I'm going to focus on three. There are more to be sure, but we're going to focus on three for today. So the first is to recognize and challenge our own bias. You know, if we are not confronting the bias within ourselves, then we're probably not going to be prepared to deal with the bias that may surface, excuse me, in our coworkers or in the communities in which we serve, right? And you know, when I say bias, I know people, self included, can get defensive, right? But it's an ongoing development task for us to say that bias is natural to the human condition. We all have preferences. We all have um, uh, things that could get under our skin about the differences that we have. And the more honest we can get about that, the more fit we are to serve as leadership, right? Because the first task of leadership is service. So I want to talk about the big five real quick. Just name real quickly the big five biases that we must recognize within ourselves so that we can be prepared to deal with it when we recognize it in others, right? Or in our organization even. So the first bias, you know, obviously ethnicity. You know, if you identify with the racial constructs of black, white, all these ways of dividing, even if we say I'm African heritage, German heritage, whatever it may be, right? Latino, Caribbean. Ethnicity is a lot of times the first sight of bias that we have in ourselves, right? The next is gender, male or female, right? Um, the third is political orientation. In today's climate, everybody's got an opinion about politics. Everybody is in grouping and out grouping each other over their political opinions, right? Excuse me. The fourth site for bias is sexual orientation. Gay, straight, lesbian, pansexual, um, however people identify, that's a likely site for bias, right? And lastly, nationality. We see that a lot, immigrants, native born, foreign born, or just people who are outgrouped because of their culture, right? So those are the sites. And I challenge you to think for yourself, what are my biases, right? And if it's still a little unclear, if it still feel like, well, I don't have any biases, I'm not biased against anybody, I accept everybody. Okay, well, let's take it a step deeper, because the the next task of a supervisor to model is to engage in ongoing cultural competency development. Even if I believe that I'm holding no bias, right, I still have a duty to develop ongoing cultural competency. There are a lot of cultures, a lot of different ways of being. There are a lot of different people in this world, and I need to be comfortable with learning and understanding others. And that begins with asking myself, what do I define as normal? I define it very normal to go to a restaurant and have a hamburger. Well, there are parts of the world where if I told them I was about to eat beef, they would look at me as if I was insane. And so what makes my upbringing and my culture where it's permissible and normal to eat beef better or any more valuable than someone who was raised on the other side of the world where they wouldn't think of eating a cow. You know, I do not eat pork. You know, for some people that's not normal, right? These are how we discover our sites of bias by asking ourselves the questions: what do I view as normal? What do I view as somehow abnormal, right? Um, and then the second part of ongoing cultural competence is asking myself, what do I understand about these other ways of being? These people who might live differently or believe differently or have different religion, you know, and that leads to the third task. And the third task is to adopt a stance of cultural humility. Cultural humility is all about understanding that while my culture may have different norms than another person's culture, that our cultures are equal, and I want to adopt a stance of curiosity about your culture, right? Why is this important specifically for CBOs who are doing work in communities or with youth? Because we're going to run into a multitude of differences in culture. The dimensions of culture include age, ethnicity, religion, orientation, location, languages spoken, all these different dimensions, right? So everybody that we meet has a culture unto themselves, and I need to be curious about what it is. It's curious when people say, oh, I don't see color. I'm colorblind, right? As if that is a way to help move us forward as society, right? And that's an opinion, right? Well, my opinion is that I would like you, as a person of color, I would like you to not be color blind, but to be curious, right? To recognize our differences and then to accept them, and to accept them as part of the beautiful plan of diversity that the universe or nature or God or however you understand our existence as being part of the plan, right? That we are meant to be diverse. We are meant to accept our differences, and that my differences make me no greater than you. We are all valuable, unique human beings, worthy of love, dignity, and respect. And I can offer you those things without pretending not to see the differences. So, as I wrap this one up, I know I've been throwing a lot of information at y'all in these videos, right? But I want you to reflect on them and even consider using them for discussion starters at your next team meeting or team building event. They're good ways to get this conversation going. If I used a term that wasn't familiar, Google it, AI it, look it up, make technology your friend, and bring that aspect into your community based organization. It's going to make you richer, more well informed, and better positioned to serve the diverse clientele that you're going to come into in community work. Hey, here speaking for One Root Initiative, this is Mike signing off. We love you. Peace and blessings.